Scott, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Mike. Great to see you.
Great to see you, even if it's virtually. Now,
Yeah.
Scott, now, how many Lotojas have you done now? What's this?
This last September was number 16.
16. Okay. Now, people, if you've never done Lotoja, let's give them a real quick kind of review of it. It's supposed to be, and I think it still is, the longest road race in the country, right? 203 miles.
Yeah, they advertise it's the longest USA cycling sanctioned road race in the country.
That is so cool. That is so cool. 202 miles, and it's not flat. It's like 8,000 feet of climbing. It's just a beautiful race. I did it 13 times, and I just met super people like Scott, and I just couldn't stop going until my body finally said stop. So let's talk a little bit about just the history of that event. It started how long ago?
It's 1982, from what I understand. There's kind of folklore that goes with the events. There's two people I know of that they always bring back every year, that ride it every year. And they were college students at Utah State, which is in Logan, where the race starts.
Right.
It's always real nice up there in early September. Leaves are starting to turn, and they said, let's ride to Jackson today, which is 200 miles. And they rode to Jackson.
I heard that someone then just said, hey, we should race this and see who can go the fastest. And that probably was when it was born. But I love the race. I'm so glad I did it. Because if it wasn't for Lotoja, you and I wouldn't be friends. So let's talk about that one real quick. 2011, I was racing, and that was the only race I'd really trained for. And I found myself at 140 miles in a little breakaway. I just remember rolling off the front. I don't know why. I wasn't trying to do anything. I wouldn't have, because I wasn't that confident. But I turned around. I'm like, I'm a little ahead of the pack. What am I doing? And then out of the blue, tell me if the story's right, you come racing up and saying, let's go, boys. They ain't coming. And that was it. So we take off, and I'm not too sure if I can do this or not. I don't know where you were at, but I was not super confident. 60 miles to go. So thank God I was with you, because you were a great support. I wouldn't have finished without you. Is that the way it went, or am I just thinking it?
That's a great story. I think actually we were by ourselves for about 70 miles, maybe 70, 80 miles. Yeah. It wasn't too far out of Afton. And I saw, and again, with Lotoja, you have to be ready you have to know who the players are in your group. Yeah. John had won it on a number of occasions in the licensed masters. And I saw John roll off. We're just lollygagging as a pack. And I thought, I can't let that go. And I rolled off the front, and we rolled, and I looked back, and no one took us seriously or something. You were maybe 200 yards up the road because you'd had a good feed zone in Afton. Yeah. And we rolled past. I said, let's go. I knew you were strong. And then we rode by we finished top three that year.
1, 2, 3. Yeah. But I had my doubts, and there were times when I thought, I'm just going to let these guys go. They're much better than me. And you'd look back and you'd say, come on, you can do it. And so it's one of those times in your life where it just changes you. I was finishing with 2 guys, and I was going to be on the podium, and together. And the cool story is not that. That's not the cool part of the story. It's nice. But the fact that we met each other in that time in life, and most of the time when people do these events, they're usually, and I've been there, you're not going for a podium. You're just trying to hang on to finish that event. You're at the back, and you meet somebody or a few people, and they become brothers and sisters. You get through it together, and you hug afterwards, and that's it. You never see them again. And in this case, you and I did, and we're doing this podcast together. So thank you, Scott.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your story, because that's what we're here for, right?
Okay.
And so between the years, and that was 2011, between the years of like 2015 and 2022, right? Mm-hmm. You had a few curveballs, and these are serious ones. I just wonder if we could just talk about that, and sure. And I'll just listen, because these are incredible challenges that you faced, and the ending is a good one. So go ahead.
Okay. Let me say something first, though, about Mike. I knew Mike could do it. I was always super impressed with Mike coming up to Utah from 500 feet above sea level. and being able to ride as well as he did. John and I, that finished 1, 2, 3 with Mike that year, were training at probably 4,000 or 5,000 feet or 6,000 feet, and so I was totally impressed with Mike.
No, that's sweet.
And his
Thank you.
training and his capabilities. And Mike, you can edit this if you want, but Mike is the Arizona time trial champion for his age group. I wish I had Mike's time trial capability. It was sure good to have him that day with the three of us. We all were pretty good rollers, or whatever, however you say that word. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, that's really sweet. I appreciate it. And it's a lot easier riding 25 miles than it is 200 miles. So that's the advantage I have now. My races are 25 miles long.
true.
Oh, thank you. That was really sweet.
But just in 2015, I had a bad. I could sense I was slowing down. Something was wrong, and I had a bad bike crash racing at the Harvest Moon Criterium in Ogden, Utah. I remember the date, September 19th, 2015. Destroyed my collarbone here. I got a plate with 13 screws and broke a bunch of bones, and it stressed my body. And so I started breaking out in this rash and went to see a dermatologist, and he said, let's put you on this stuff because you've got some kind of an internal rash that has been caused from stress on your body. And oh, by the way, let's do blood tests a couple of times because I'm putting you on this hardcore medication. My hemoglobin and hematocrit were lower, in the high 30s for hematocrit. He said, you might want to talk to a doctor and get checked out for multiple myeloma, just to make sure. And multiple myeloma is a blood cancer that ultimately people die because their skeleton is breaking down.
Wow.
I got blood tests, and so I went to see a specialist at our local cancer teaching hospital here in Salt Lake. And says, yeah, I think you have smoldering myeloma, which turns into multiple myeloma, or could. And I was back on my bike in 5 weeks. I felt fine. My body had healed.
Strange.
This doctor said, you've got this problem and you shouldn't be riding your bike because if you fell off your bike, you're going to be in big trouble. This is literally like 3 months after I had that crash.
Yeah.
I started riding again and just was super careful. I didn't feel that bad. In fact, I was looking at power numbers the other day. I have some KOMs that I picked up in 2016. It can't be that bad. And so anyway, so I'm kind of getting weaker, and I kept going in every 3 months, get blood tests, and I was trying to get some numbers to tell me, what's the prognosis on this? Well, you could live for a long time or you could live for a short time. Finally, in October 2017, my numbers were quite a way down, and so we decided to do treatment. And so I went through chemotherapy between October of 2017 and March of 2018. And it was a good experience and a bad experience. I just made the decision to live my life and have faith that everything would work out and just be active. Sitting at night with doubts, fears. You can look at some crappy stuff on the internet, or what I decided to do is I have this old muscle car, and I decided to do a frame-off restoration on that muscle car at night. I couldn't sleep, so I go out and did that. And I have this cool car that's bonded as I went through that. So came out of chemotherapy in 2018 and was feeling pretty good. We took a trip to California just to get away, and took my bike and was riding the north end of the Golden Gate Bridge and having a great time. Rediscovered the joy of riding my bike and being able to go relatively fast and just feeling good and pushing yourself. And
that must have been a terrible, what am I going to be able to, what's my life going to be like?
What's going to be? I'm not happy sitting around.
Yeah.
I enjoy riding my bike. And so I got back to the hotel, said to my wife, the bike is life. I've got to start riding and racing again. She said, that's fine with me.
Good for you.
So that's good. And so I raced a bit, raced some more. Numbers were down just a little bit, but in 2022, I raced Lotoja. I started racing Lotoja again in 2019, 2022, and I learned some lessons. You can't ever take that race for granted.
Right.
I learned to not roll into this thing nonchalantly. 2022, I was ready. I had a coach therapist to help me get my head right. I was frightened when I go into intersections because my wife and I, when I had cancer, had been in Scotland. Our last night in Scotland, we got T-boned driving through a green light by a drunk driver.
Mm.
Hit us and put my wife in the hospital for a night, and we, just a lot of trauma.
Wow.
And so I was having flashbacks when I was going fast on my bike, and so I had to get some mental help. I got some, and that helped me. If I can help someone, or if you're in a bad place, talk to people and get mental and emotional help.
Yeah.
You won't have the physical capability if you're screwed up mentally.
Yeah. It sounds like you did. You had people to reach out to, right?
I did.
That were going through the same thing that you were going through.
Yeah.
So in 2022, what happened in March? Talk about that.
I had joined the Midwelly Club here in Salt Lake, and they have this great early morning Zwift session 3 days a week. You can get about 140 miles a week with those 3 sessions.
Yeah.
We're flying, and it was hard. And I got into 2022 March with some of my best power numbers in 10 years because I've been riding hard all day.
And you're 60 plus, right? So there you go, 60 plus and hammering out with everybody. I love it.
Coming up on 61. Dave Sharp is a guy that's about our age that that's a part of that club.
Yeah,
so
do good.
I did doing a heart interval end of March, and all of a sudden I went into atrial fibrillation. Never happened to me before in my life. I had some funny feelings once in a while when I was really pushing hard or maybe training too much. But
so your heart
on AFib.
So what? Explain that your heart rate just goes high, or how high?
Yeah, it manifests itself different ways in different people. With me, I had my heart rate up around high 160s, and all of a sudden it went to 238.
Oh wow!
And I lost all.
Can you feel that?
Yes.
Can you could feel that? Wow.
Yeah, I can feel it.
My God!
All of a sudden, my heart goes to 238, and I had no power. And what happens is your upper and lower chambers in your heart get out of sync. It's an electronic issue, not a structural issue.
Okay.
Apparently pretty
That's
common
scary.
in guys like us as they're getting up in their 50s and 60s.
Yeah. I hear guys, either getting pacemakers because it's too slow and the other ones that are too high. So, yeah, there's a lot of this. But, oh, wow, that must have been one scary episode.
Well, came home, have an ER doctor as a neighbor. He threw on his Apple Watch. I own one now because I can tell if I'm an AFib or not.
I'm with you.
There we go. So he threw on his Apple Watch. His interesting ER physician said, "You're an AFib. Go to the ER." I said, "Okay." And I went over and they checked me out, and they did what's called a cardio version, where they put you under light anesthetic and they put you to sleep, and they shock your heart with like 150 volts. With paddles up the front and back, and you wake up and your heart rhythm is normal again. And so
that's
what happened to me.
Okay.
They had the doctors put me on a 24/7 heart rate monitor for 30 days. Wore that all through April, trying to repeat conditions. Had a stress test, heart rate was way up there, and nothing. So I thought it was a fluke, and I signed up for an event called Crusher and the Tusher.
Okay.
And also signed up for Lotoja that year, and just going on faith. And I had another AFib episode around Memorial Day, again pushing it when I was tired. Had a cardio version, then it was gone again. I was training hard, and so I showed up for Crusher and the Tusher, and at about mile 10, as you turn on the dirt, I was in great position.
Yeah.
In the front of the 60 plus group, and all of a sudden I went into AFib again.
Yeah.
So I had to turn around and roll back down the hill and drive home. And so met with a specialist finally in July, and he said, "Let's try some meds." I tried meds for one day and went off because it was horrible.
Okay.
Felt like I had a 50-pound cinder block on my chest. So she said, "You're a good candidate for a heart ablation." And And I said, what's that? And it's basically where they go in with scopes and they induce AFib on your heart while you're under, and then they cauterize the nerve endings that cause the AFib.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I went in August 17th for an ablation, and I'm a high achiever, so I joined the 1/4% club that has a problem, and they accidentally perforated my heart about 10 minutes in, and so had to pull me out and save me, and spent 3 days in the hospital, then had to heal for 3 months, going into AFib and out all the time. In fact, I spent about 72 hours in AFib over a 3-day period in October of 2022.
What is your mindset? I mean, this is incredible stories. I mean, this is all within the span of like 6 years. To that point, you're a normally healthy person, and within 6 years, you've had a scare with cancer, heart surgery that's gone wrong. I mean, what are you thinking? What's your mindset at this point?
A good friend, my ER doctor, I said, I've tried to take good care of myself my whole life,
Mm-hmm.
and I get to go in and have some guy poke a hole in my heart. So he says that's his favorite thing I said during that time. He teases me about it all the time now.
Yeah.
But so I healed from that, and there was a lot of doubt, just a lot of fear. What's my life going to be like? Can I still ride my bike?
Yeah.
I was riding during that time, but I couldn't take my heart rate up above about 125, or I would go into AFib. And so November 30th last year of 2022, I went in for a second ablation. They had me on the table for 6 hours, and they also won blessing in disguise, and I'm grateful for blessings in disguise.
Yeah.
I also had an A flutter issue, which is the opposite of AFib. So they were able to treat both. I was on the table for 6 hours, same surgeon.
Wow.
I said, he came in and I said, are you up for this today? Have you been drinking your Mountain Dew? Or you know?
Yeah, you're hoping.
I'm ready. And he was angry because of what had happened before. You could tell he was like going into an athletic event, and he was pumped.
We're going to get this right. We're going to get this right.
Yeah. And he
what
did
a
great
story.
job.
What did you feel like when you came out of that?
I woke up the next morning, it snowed, and our nice neighbors had come and shoveled my driveway, and I was so grateful for my nice neighbors and thought, this is great. I don't feel very good, but because they've been burning my heart for 6 hours.
Yeah.
But I'm alive again. Hope this goes well. And so it was like a new lease on life.
Beautiful.
The recovery was hard, and if people listen to this that they're thinking about ablation, I'm glad I did it because it took a while to recover. I wondered if I'd be able to race or go fast as I was before again.
Yeah. So that would be like a year ago. Would you ever have thought in Lotoja is in September, like in 9 months, I'm going to be on the podium in Lotoja? Isn't that crazy? Were you thinking that, or like, that is a miracle?
I was thinking, I want to race Crusher and the Tusher.
Yeah.
I want to go race Lotoja, and I'd like to try to get on the podium if my body will let me.
And boy, did it ever. And then you finished 5th place, get on one of those steps. You're a champion. Tell me, because I know this is my favorite spot, 4 miles to the finish line of the Lotoja finish line. You are riding along the Teton Mountains. You can see the Jackson Hole Resort. It's just the most beautiful place I've ever been. Did you capture that moment and say, man, I am really, really happy?
So I'm thinking, this is great. I am actually racing here for the first time in 2 years. Felt like I was racing. It felt good.
Yeah.
And as we rolled up towards Teton Village, like Mike says, shout outs to Brent Chambers, the guy who owns the Lotoja event.
Yeah.
There's just this neat, the leaves are starting to turn, the sun, the light is soft, and you're rolling towards the finish line. And you've got Teton Village on your left, just these gorgeous mountains, the Grand Teton in the distance. Yeah. Doesn't get much better. It was wonderful. I was grateful. And here's what I was thinking. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful for the blessings of healing that God gave me. I'm so grateful for the people who have helped me, including Mike, including the mental people, the nutrition people. And I'm grateful that I have made the effort. I'm here again. I'm actually racing my bike, and I hope I can get on the podium. And so, and here's what I felt bad for the people who I would beat off of the podium. That's how I felt, because I've been there before, and I've been in just mental anguish with the cancer and the AFib and all that, thinking you'd never get back again. And I'm grateful for that. And I actually felt bad. If there's 5 people on the podium, the other 25, 35 guys who are in your class aren't.
Yeah. Because a lot of those are just within a second, and people with podium, but as we get older too, the podiums are less, the events are less, it's hard to be motivated. And I'm sure you all get your feelings, but the podiums are far and few between. And the challenges or the triumphs that you have, they're personal, everyone has to have their own why to get on the bike. So it's cool that you live that though. What tips do you have for anyone that, we're both in the 60 plus and we know what this is like. I've never been 62 3/4 and ridden. I'll be one day older tomorrow. So I don't know, like how long can you go until the proverbial wheels fall off? And I'm finding you can go a lot longer if you do the right training and make sure you give your rest and you get plenty of recovery and eat right. You can kick some butt for a while, right? What do you think?
I think you can. And I was inspired. There were 3 guys. There's Ravel Call, won the 65 plus, and then there were these 2 other guys who I met this year. Their names escape me right now. We all finished together.
Nice.
Ravel is a good climber, and he finished that. And then what was really inspiring was there was a guy who was 79 years old.
Wow.
He started in Logan, and he was a little bit wobbly. He was on a super nice bike. He looked fit, but he looked old.
Yeah.
And he had the shakes for some reason, and he had the shakes the whole race, but he kept a straight line.
Wow.
Something was going on with him physically, and he won the 70 plus at age 79, almost 80. And
I can't even imagine that. Honestly, I can't even.
10, 15 minutes after us.
Man.
And he cramped up as he got off his bike, and he fell off, and people were helping him. They said, "Oh, that happened last year." when he won that last year.
Yeah.
And so, what I come to the conclusion is I'm grateful that I can ride my bike. I'm grateful to have the nice bikes that I do. The bike is life, and it's not so much winning or getting on podiums because I'm just kind of an average athlete. I've never had a great sprint. I've been all over podiums over my racing career, but I don't get up on the top steps very often. And I'm just happy to be there. If 20 guys show up, if I can get in the top 5 or 6, I feel really good.
Yeah, me too.
It's the joy of the process that I enjoy. And so I think if I could, as far as training, I think if you do Lotoja, never take it for granted. Talk to people who've done it. And train. You gotta ride.
There's no shortcut to that race. You got to do a lot of miles and the right kind of miles if you want to be competitive. Other guys can do less, and you can finish a 200-mile ride, but to be competitive. Well, I appreciate all the wisdom and also sharing your story, your personal story, because I'm sure it will reach a lot of people that have shared similar experiences and how you've overcome it. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for being a great friend. I really appreciate that as well. So thank everyone for also listening to the podcast. We'll have more coming up. We'll have other athletes. In the meantime, just keep passions high, keep the wheels spinning, and keep creating your own story. All right?
Just keep going.